And welcome to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, glad you're with us today. We're going to have another show, and if you're new to The Verdict, we meet interesting people and talk about interesting subjects, and today one that probably not everybody's going to know about.
No, that's right. We're going to be talking about an organization called the Federal Bar Association, a bar association of lawyers and judges who are principally involved at the federal system as opposed to state. And we've got a couple of guys coming on today. They're going to tell us about an interesting meeting that's coming up pretty soon, and they are in charge of it, and it could mean big things for Oklahoma City and for the state.
It's all coming up today on The Verdict. Stay with us.
In driving rain, blistering heat, and bitter cold, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, Chesapeake drills non-stop for natural gas on American soil. Chesapeake drills more new gas wells than anyone else, and from those wells collects the most drilling information and acquires more 3D seismic images, leveraging every efficiency to improve the odds of finding more natural gas every day with every well we drill. The better job we do of discovering bigger reserves of clean-burning American natural gas, the greater the prosperity of our nearby communities, our state, and our nation. And as long as there are more gas reserves to be found here in the U.S., we will never rest. Chesapeake. Natural gas wins the day.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
And welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guests.
Today we're very pleased to have two guests that are going to talk to us about the Oklahoma City chapter of the Federal Bar Association and some upcoming interesting events. To my right across the table is my partner Will Hoch. Will did his undergraduate work and his law work at the Catholic University. He's been with Crowe and Dunleavy practicing law since 1995. Doing bankruptcy, commercial law, and intellectual property litigation, copyright, patent, and the like. He was a law clerk both at the state level system and at the federal system. He has some legislative experience with the Honorable Glenn English, and he is the immediate past president of the Federal Bar Association. Will, welcome back.
Thank you.
Glad to have you again.
Glad to be here.
To my left is Sandy Coates. Sandy did his undergraduate work at Tulane University and his law work at the University of Oklahoma. He was in private practice for approximately 4 years. He is now an assistant United States attorney in the Western District of Oklahoma and has been for the last 4 years. He is now involved with the white collar crime section and public corruption unit of the U.S. Attorney's Office, where he's staying very active, I understand. He is the past president of the Federal Bar Association, the Oklahoma City chapter. He and Will together are co-chairman of the Federal Bar Association's annual meeting, which will take place here in Oklahoma City in 2009. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Sandy, tell us, what is the Federal Bar Association and why does it exist?
Federal Bar Association is a national organization of lawyers that predominantly practice in federal courts, in any discipline in federal courts. It's made up of about 16,000 lawyers, prosecutors, government lawyers, bankruptcy lawyers, any lawyers that have a particular focus on federal cases or federal practice can be involved with the Federal Bar Association. It's made up of chapters in most major cities. Most federal districts have a chapter, and then also sections that cater to different areas of the law.
What do you all try to accomplish?
Well, it's mostly an exchange of ideas to allow federal practitioners forums to talk about issues related to federal law, to have continuing legal education programs, and there is a leg of the Federal Bar that advocates on behalf of judges and on other certain issues to Congress.
Can change be instituted through this association?
Certainly.
And is it successful? And
It has been, and we've had a very successful work with Congress on certain issues. One of the main issues the Federal Bar Association nationally is judicial pay. There's been problems over the years that the pay for judges has not increased with that of the pay for lawyers in private practice.
it's harder to keep the best judges when there's such a discrepancy.
Well, in fact, judges from around the country have been leaving the bench because of, at least partly because of the pay issue.
Well, I know you are very active, have been for a number of years with the American Bar Association.
That's correct.
And of course, you have to be a member of the Oklahoma Bar Association to practice law in Oklahoma. How does the Federal Bar Association's work differ from these other bar associations that are out there?
Well, the Federal Bar Association is a little bit more specialized. And let me back up. The American Bar Association is a voluntary organization of any lawyer that wants to participate. You pay your dues and you can participate. And it involves lawyers of any type of practice. The Federal Bar Association is geared more towards lawyers that have a federal practice. And that means either that practice under laws that are enacted by Congress. We have a large number of lawyers that participate, that work out of the FAA here in Oklahoma City, that are members of the Federal Bar Association. Bankruptcy lawyers would be an example of lawyers that participate.
Yeah, now there is no state bankruptcy law, it's all federal bankruptcy law, is that right?
Exactly, that's exactly right. And so as a result, you have lawyers that spend most of their time participating or interfacing with federal law, whether it's federal tax law or copyright and trademark law that's predominantly dominated by federal law.
Now, I've heard of the Federalist Society. How does that differ from the Federal Bar Association?
The Federal Bar Association and the Federalist Society are two completely different things. The Federal Bar Association was started in 1929. It's a voluntary organization of lawyers that desire to participate, and they usually participate through their local chapter. We have a number of lawyers who've come up through our chapter who are now on the national scene, so to speak, with the Federal Bar. The Federalist Society is something different, and it was started in the 80s by a group of like-minded lawyers to try and implement different changes. It started more as a political type organization than a voluntary legal organization. But it is a legal organization.
Cindy, this chapter of the Federal Bar Association had quite a bit of success. Expound on that.
Well, it's been really fun to be a part of. About 5 years ago, the Oklahoma City chapter, which has been in existence for over 20 years, had dwindled to probably less than 50 members and had very few programs, if any. Judge Robert Bacharach's a magistrate judge here in the Western District of Oklahoma in Oklahoma City. He and I and another group got involved, another few others got involved with the leadership, and mostly under Judge Bacharach and Judge Robert Henry, who's the Chief Judge of the 10th Circuit, who's a great friend to our chapter. In about 3 years, our membership was over 300. We became the largest chapter in the 10th Circuit, which is the states that are in our federal circuit. And so with that number of members, we've become a player, I guess you'd say, in the national organization. Judge Bacharach is now what's called a 10th Circuit Vice President. He's a Vice President of the national organization. And we've won countless awards for our chapter and for the programs we've done in the last 5 years.
Let me ask you, Will, judicial independence, the subject that retired Justice Sandra Day O'Connor spent a good bit of time talking about. Is that something that's of interest to your organization?
Oh, it's of great interest.
And first of all, tell our viewers once again what that concept of judicial independence is, and then how are you interested in it?
Sure. The concept of judicial independence is the thought that the judges sitting on the federal bench have the ability to analyze a case that comes before them without any external interference. The matters of the parties that come in have an opportunity to present their case, and the judge can analyze the case and make a determination based upon the law and that's presented. But it also gets beyond that, and that is that you don't have interference from any of the executive branch or even the judicial branch itself or Congress trying to influence that particular matter. We had a situation, I believe the case was in Florida a number of years ago with, I think the name was Shivo, where Congress tried to enact certain legislation to directly impact that matter before the courts. And so it would be trying to stay away from those situations so that the judges can be independent and not worry about external influences on a matter before them.
What's your Bar Association do to try to promote or advance judicial independence?
Well, mostly through our Government Relations Committee. There's a national committee made up of national members of the Federal Bar Association. I'm a member of that Government Relations Committee. And we meet on a monthly basis, telephonically, and talk about some of our primary issues. One is judicial pay. Another is judicial independence. Those are usually two of the most important issues for the Federal Bar Association. And what we try and do is educate Congress. That's the most important thing, educate Congress and the executive branch about judicial independence and why it's important. I think a lot of times my experience has been when I speak to members of Congress, especially our delegation, about why it's important, they understand the concept and they understand why it's important and they respond accordingly. I think a lot of times people get frustrated about decisions they may hear about in the press, and a lot of times it's because of a lack of being able to explain all of the intricacies of that lawsuit, and it can make people frustrated.
Will Hoch and Sandy Coates are our guests today on The Verdict. We'll be back with more.
To be Chickasaw, you have strength, you have faith, and your family comes first.
I was diagnosed with FSGS, which is a progressive kidney disease that leads to kidney failure.
I believe that being Chickasaw makes me strong. It made me a strong mother for Melissa.
She told me that day, "Don't worry, I'll be there for you. I've got 2 kidneys, you can have 1.
They took me in first, and we just hugged each other, and I said, "Melissa, it's almost time. It's gonna be all right."
My mom has given me life twice, and how do you ever thank someone for giving you a second chance? Through those challenging times, my family and I knew that we were going to get through it, that we are a Chickasaw family, and that whatever obstacle may arise, together we will conquer it.
Home values are down in some states, but not in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's home values have increased 4.2% during the past 12 months. Unlike some states where home values have decreased as much as 20%. Good thing you're in Oklahoma. There may be real estate problems in some states, but there has never been a better time than now to buy or sell a home in Oklahoma. One of the most affordable states in the country, Oklahomans are buying and selling homes every day, and an Oklahoma realtor can show you how. Good thing you're in Oklahoma.
Okiwani is an Indian name for a place where children play. When we obtained the camp, we found a lot of oil debris left in the woods. We saw a commercial about how the oil and natural gas industry cleans up old oil well sites. We called the OERB, and they agreed to remove tons of concrete and steel. It didn't cost us a thing. Thousands of children have left their footprints on this land. Thanks to the oil and gas industry, they will for a long time to come.
Welcome back to The Verdict. We're discussing the Federal Bar Association with Sandy Coates and Will Hoch.
Well, I know one of the things that the Federal Bar offers periodically, monthly, or perhaps more often, are programs for the members of the Federal Bar and for the general public to the extent they want to attend. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We have two primary programs every year. We have one called the Holloway Lecture, which is named after one of our 10th Circuit judges here in Oklahoma City, William Holloway.
Your former partner.
That's correct. And we have fantastic speakers come in annually for that program. We also have a judicial reception that we have to honor our entire federal judicial bench in Oklahoma, and that occurs in the spring every year. But we have programs, usually 1 or 2 a month, and they involve either continuing legal education programs for lawyers or just topics of general interest. Recently we had a program where we had 2 lawyers come in and debate Roe versus Wade. We had a program where 2 lawyers came in and presented oral argument related to the death penalty and issues related to the death penalty, which was very well attended. We have a young lawyer orientation once a year for lawyers that are joining the federal bench, joining the federal bar. We've had a program on Guantanamo Bay and the detainees at Guantanamo Bay from people that have actually represented individuals and people that have represented the government down there in Cuba. We've had the Solicitor General from the United States come and speak. We've had former Governor Keating come and speak about federal legal issues.
One of our, I think, most successful and important programs that we have is we call Lunch with the Judges. And it's very simple, but our federal judges have been so accommodating to come in and just have a brown bag lunch with lawyers, just to have a discussion about issues or whatever concerns the lawyers have, whatever likes and dislikes the judges have. And it really personalizes them and gets us some direct contact with the judges, which is very important.
How often do you do that?
Well, we do it once a month. We set up a calendar for a month, for a year, and each judge has agreed to take a month. We have overwhelming response. We have to limit it to, I think, 20 or 25 people, and it fills up very quickly.
Let me ask you about that. It's an impression I have over the years practicing in federal court and elsewhere, is that our federal judges, while sometimes people have a tendency to think of them as haughty and particularly austere, our federal judges in the Western District at least are very approachable and very personable and friendly. And if you're on the bad side of them, it's probably something you did, not something they did. Is that your sense, Will?
I think without a doubt. I practice in a lot of jurisdictions outside of Oklahoma, and I am always proud to come back to Oklahoma because I'm reminded of our judges here. Their professionalism is top notch. The way that they interact with the bar is top notch. They are just a fantastic bench, from our chief judge all the way down to our newest judge. We seem to continuously receive onto our bench fantastic judges, and my experience is tremendous with our federal bench compared to many other federal benches around the country.
Sandy, a big event coming up next September. Tell us about that.
Well, we couldn't be more excited about the Federal Bar Association, like most national organizations, has a national meeting and convention every year. The last few years it's been in Miami and Las Vegas and Dallas and Atlanta.
And they're finally coming to a bigger city.
And they're finally coming to a bigger city. That's right. They saw the light and they're coming to Oklahoma City, a city I know all 4 of us love. And, it's kind of interesting. We sort of hatched this idea about a year ago. We met with the executive director of the Federal Bar Association, and we approached him with the idea of having the meeting here in Oklahoma City. We were thinking 2011, 2012, and Will went up to Washington for a federal bar meeting back in March, and called me on a Saturday morning and said, well, they've offered us 2009. And after I picked up the phone and after I dropped it, I said, okay, we can't turn it down. And so we agreed. It's a lot shorter lead time than most cities get, so we've had to jump on it and work very hard. But so September 10th through the 12th of 2009, the Federal Bar Association annual meeting will be in Oklahoma City. The Hilton Skirvin will be flagship hotel, and we just couldn't be more excited.
Well, it sounds great. How many lawyers and judges, and what will the mix be, and what will the numbers be?
Well, it's they've ranged in size over the years from probably about 250 to up north of 700 or 800. Our goal is at least 500 lawyers and spouses to come. There'll be a good mix of federal judges there as well. But we hope to have somewhere between 500 and 750 people in Oklahoma
That's
City.
great.
Are you offering as an incentive to those who attend in September some football tickets to either an OSU game or an OU game?
Well, in particular, we made sure that there wasn't a football game that weekend to make sure that our population was good. You kind of tend to see lawyers not attend events when there's a major football game going on. So we made sure that we don't have an OU or OSU game that weekend.
What will take place during that meeting? What will the attendees get to do?
Well, the structure of the program is you usually have a plenary session in the morning and then breakout sessions from there. So we'll have a major speaker in the morning and around lunchtime on that Thursday and Friday. And then we'll have different programs during the day, ranging from federal practice programs to a program related to the terrorism. We're going to have a major program at our Terrorism Institute here in Oklahoma City. We're going to have programs dealing with lawyers and general counsel, which is a relationship that is very important in representing corporations before the federal bench. We'll have an opportunity to have Erwin Chemerinsky, who is a leading scholar on the Supreme Court, has committed to come. Charles Ogletree from Harvard has agreed to come. So we've got some international speakers that are going to come to Oklahoma City and talk to the federal lawyers here about some fantastic programs.
And I guess the work must already be underway, the planning for this.
Oh, yes.
How do you handle all that?
Well, we put a committee structure together. Will and I are the co-chairs of the committee. We have wonderful honorary co-chairs. Chief Judge of the Western District, Judge Vicki Miles-LaGrange, retired Judge Ralph Thompson, Chief Judge of the 10th Circuit, Robert Henry, who I mentioned earlier, and former President of the American Bar Association, Bill Paul, are our 4 honorary co-chairs. We've had great success with not only the current board of our chapter, but also other members that have pitched in to help. The CLE, continuing legal education side, will be the first 2 days, Thursday and Friday. And one of the things Will mentioned that I'm particularly excited about is we realized that Friday everybody's here is September 11th. And with the memorial here and the Institute, it just seemed like something we couldn't ignore. And of course, everyone that comes to Oklahoma City, one of the first things they want to see is the memorial and the museum. And so we're going to try to integrate all of that into a program on that Friday afternoon.
Let me ask you how you do this. Do you decide, for instance, you've got Professor Ogletree from Harvard committed to come, I take it. Do you arrive at a topic and then figure out who you want to speak about that topic, or do you focus in on an individual and say, I want to get them to come in no matter what they're going to talk about?
Well, it's a little bit of both. We've had some opportunities to bring in these individuals, and for example, with Dean Chemerinsky, he has such a vast knowledge. He's an individual that can speak on every single case that came up before the Supreme Court that prior session, and can speak in detail without any notes and without any problem. He speaks off the cuff about the details of these cases. So naturally, you want him to speak about the Supreme Court and the future, what's coming up with the Supreme Court, what he predicts in terms of decisions in the future. You also want to talk about the future of the Supreme Court. We have a new President of the United States, and talk about possibly his influence. But many times it's the speaker who drives it, and other times, if we have a subject, we go out and target a specific speaker.
How many programs will you offer then?
Well,
how many plenary sessions? 2?
We'll have 2 plenary sessions, one each morning, and then on Thursday we'll have 3 tracks of continuing legal education: a federal civil practice, federal criminal practice, and then we're going to have an Indian law section, another obviously native topic for Oklahoma. One of the reasons that the federal organization was so interested in coming to Oklahoma City this year is the individual that's president-elect, his name is Lawrence Baca. He will become the national president of the organization in Oklahoma City, and he's Native American, and he'll be the first Native American to be the leader of the Federal Bar Association.
And that's going to have to be the final word. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Kent and I'll have a final word after this.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of the verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Some website information. For more information on our guest, go to fedbar.org or go to our website, theverdict.tv. We'll see you next week.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.